Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here with so many leaders from across sectors and around the world, and really to be having today's conversation here in India, which is home to this extraordinary linguistic diversity and cultural diversity and lots of lived experience of navigating both. It's clear to me that from the work that I do at Microsoft and beyond, that multilingual and multicultural capability for AI is not a nice to have, but it's essential to the broad and beneficial diffusion of AI. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Adoption only follows when systems reliably work in the languages people actually use and the cultural contexts in which they use them. Many of today's most powerful general-purpose AI models are trained largely on publicly available web data, but actually fewer than 5% of the world's spoken languages are meaningfully represented online. And within that narrow slice, English really dominates. So we've got about 42% of widely used crawl data sets being in English alone. What we've seen is that imbalance has real consequences. When AI safety mechanisms are calibrated primarily in English to reflect English-speaking norms, they miss culturally indirect phrasing, they miss idioms, they miss humor. And those misses affect what models refuse, how they follow constraints, and how they behave in safety-critical scenarios. What we've seen is that these gaps matter most for contextual harm. So think about scams and manipulation and social engineering. Situations where intent is often hinted at, but not stated outright. And it's got broader security implications as well. We've seen that low-resource languages and non-Latin scripts have been exploited by adversarial actors to bypass model or system-level safeguards, and that's partly because they were never tested in those contexts. So the question before us today is not whether multilingual evaluation matters. The question is how we build it in a way that is rigorous, reusable, and grounded in real-world use. At Microsoft, we've been investing in this problem across research and evaluation and deployment. Concretely, we've been supporting the multilingual, multicultural, and multimodal expansion of ML Commons AI Luminate benchmark, which Peter will speak about later today. Microsoft Research in India, through the work of our colleagues Sunayana and Kalika, who is also with us today, have been advancing Samiksha, a community-centered approach to evaluating model behavior in real-world contexts. And through our Microsoft Research Accelerator and our research hubs in India and Africa, we've been advancing Project Gecko, an effort to co-design AI applications with local communities to support agriculture and education in East Africa and South Asia. For all of these exciting and ambitious projects, we're also clear at Microsoft that no single company or institution can solve this alone. And the encouraging news is that we're not starting from scratch. As you've just heard, across the global AI evaluation community, real work is already happening. And in fact, we're privileged to have the leaders of several of these work streams here with us today. So in Singapore, as my colleague Hector explained, IMDA has brought together language and cultural experts from across the Asia-Pacific region to red team AI systems against region-specific harms. Here in India, Sarai at IIT Madras is showing what culturally grounded testing looks like. They've been developing ways to surface the bias and stereotyping patterns that actually matter locally. And last year in Tokyo, the JPAY Center proposed a multicultural AI consortium, moving beyond translated prompts to shared evaluation infrastructure, especially for low-resource languages. This is why the India AI Impact Summit comes at such a critical moment. This week offers a real opportunity to convene stakeholders around practical collaboration to make multilingual and multicultural evaluation more rigorous, more reusable, and more grounded in local contexts. If we get this right, we enable AI's benefits to scale across contexts, cultures, and languages. The diffusion of trustworthy AI systems doesn't happen by accident. It happens because we choose to design, evaluate, and govern systems for the world as it actually is: multilingual, multicultural, and deeply interconnected. With that, it's my pleasure to hand over to my colleague Suniyama, who's going to moderate today's panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Natasha, for those opening remarks. And as you can see here, we have an amazing panel of experts from industry, academia, research, startups, and so on. And so I'm really excited to actually learn from them about their own experience on advancing multilingual AI safety. And so what I'll do is I'll ask each panelist one question, and as I ask them the question, I will introduce them just to save some time. So I'm going to start with Sarah Hooker, who's the co-founder of Adaption Labs, which she founded recently after a really successful stint being the head of Cohere Labs. And so the question that I have, Sarah, for you is that you've been a leading voice on multilingual safety. You wrote the article on the divide. And so I want to ask you, what do you think the most urgent safety gaps are, basically preventing multilingual safety evaluation? And what do you think some approaches to close those gaps could be that you're thinking about in your new venture?
I think this is, excellent. So this is not enough. That was a lovely introduction. Maybe I'll throw a few thoughts out there. So one of the biggest gaps about multilingual safety is that it is not only a question of language coverage, it's a question of contextual. What is unsafe here is completely different from what is considered unsafe in the US. I think the best example of this, which was very interesting when we started this work, there was a very famous data set released by a Frontier AI lab that was about AI safety issues. And the examples were decidedly American. And one of the examples was someone threatening to go TP a house. And I had no idea what that meant. It means that to go throw toilet paper at a house. This is very specific and very interesting because that data set was used by basically every single Frontier AI lab to align its models. And what that says is two things. One is that we have an issue where frankly, we need more ecosystems of talent that are building and owning the full stack to represent exactly what are considered harms. But then the second thing is, it is not just about language coverage, it's essentially a question also of context. What this means is that things that would be fun to talk about today with the whole panel is, one is, how do we also deal with adversarial safety issues that emerge over time as people interact with technology? So this is a third element that I think is often not talked about. There are new safety issues that emerge as people interact with AI for different over time. For example, fraud and people targeting people with voice agents or people taking advantage of someone who's susceptible. These are all issues which have become easier to become a threat because now AI is so cheap to deploy. And so I think it has to be more holistic. For me, I'm a researcher, I'm a computer scientist. I've spent my whole career in Frontier Labs. My responsibility has been building these systems. And so I think very carefully about these things, like how do we think about the safety of them. For now, adaption, I think this goes to the second question. With adaption, our main goal is how do we make it very efficient to adapt? And this is crucial because right now we ship the same model to billions of people around the world, and fundamentally we're shipping the same judgments and red lines about what is safe and what's unsafe. And I think it's really core to how we build intelligence that we have to think about it as like, how do we cheaply and efficiently adapt to really local as well as global AI. So maybe I'll pause there. I'll also just note, Marzia did much of, she championed a lot of the work, even the paper mentioned, Marzia was part of it. And so Marzia should also weigh in on this, but I know you have a tailored question for each of us. I'm going to turn it back.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sarah, for that thoughtful response.